You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast. Join your hosts as we review video games from all systems and all genres. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny.
I'm your co-host, Kaylie.
Today, we are on episode 86, and we are talking about Final Fantasy XI. Kaylie, did you enjoy this game?
It's been terrible.
So this game had a lot of problems, like, out of the gate.
This game, we were almost not here reviewing Final Fantasy XI. This was almost completely different game.
There was a lot of hurdles in getting this podcast together. First off, installing the game was a beast. Like, we trying to get, and we talked a little bit about this on the Zap chats not too long ago, but like just getting this game on the computer and leaping through all of the play online hurdles, it's such a pain. But then you get dropped into the game and it's also a pain. But like on top of the issues of installing and getting all that figured out, I came down with COVID over Christmas. So like, to be honest, the entirety of the Final Fantasy XI streams is me struggling with like a bad like vocal issue.
He's like recovering from COVID from start to finish.
You can hear the progression. Honestly,
yeah,
and like it delayed our playthrough because we wanted to start playing right in January. Like as soon as January started, we were planning on playing it. Well, I got sick over Christmas and I spent a week or two like recovering. And then after that, once I actually started feeling better, I started streaming. Well, my voice was still not 100%. And in fact, it still isn't. It's significantly better, but it still isn't great. But like you can really hear it in the streams. So yeah, like I was dealing with that. Plus the game is, as you'll find out, the game's not super easy. So like, there was a lot going against us on this one.
Oh man, it was like pulling teeth to even get me on to play with you.
It sure was.
You'd have to send me a message the other day. Hey, we still good for 11 tonight? Yeah, a little bit later. Hey
buddy. I would have to like message you early in the day like, hey, prepare for 11.
Like, the first full week, it was just like, no, I'm busy. Yeah. I'm already in bed. And then, like, you started getting to the point where it's just like, I'm just going to have to start reminding her. Because, I mean, I legitimately would forget because out of sight, out of mind, I didn't want to think about it.
Well, and this game is funny because of the way that it's structured with it being this MMO and it also being difficult. I didn't want to get too progressed ahead of you because I saw the troubles coming down the pipe and I'm like, we're going to have to do this together if we're going to figure any of this out. Like, there's no way. Like, I'm struggling and I've got people in the chat in Twitch with me helping me out. Like, Kaylie would have no one. So, like, if she's trying to play this on her own, she's not going to make it very far.
Shoot, even without the people in Twitch, we wouldn't have figured it out together either.
Right.
Like, there's no way we both would have figured... Like, there were times where it was just you and me, and, like, nothing would get done the whole time.
Yeah.
There was a few streams where we just... nothing actually got
done. Before we get too far into this, first off, Shadow...
And Trillian...
You guys are awesome.
You.
If you're listening to this, and I hope you are, sincerely... We appreciate your efforts in helping us figure this game out.
We would not have played this game.
Absolutely.
If we're not for their help.
Absolutely. And also, I apologize that we didn't finish as much of the story as we wanted to. We played the other day and you guys weren't on and we literally are done playing now.
Yeah.
And so I don't see us going back to it soon. I mean, maybe eventually, maybe we'll pick up some stuff, but like because of the way this game is, it's gonna be hard to convince Kaylie to play it again. So, you know, if you
I'll
guys
come over and visit while you play.
if any of you listening are interested in Final Fantasy XI and you want to see or listen to us review more of this game, let us know. And I will do my absolute best to get Kaylie to play more, and maybe we'll dedicate some more time to it and play more of the game and experience more of it.
I will say this. After finally played regularly, I can with confidence say I would rather play this than Final Fantasy 1.
Okay,
If
well, that's
you had
good.
asked me that, though, the first month, I would have been like, no, let's boot up Final Fantasy 1 right now.
Yeah, I think you would have gotten like 2 hours into that game. You'd be like, you know what? Never mind.
Wow, I think I'm sick this month, Danny. I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat it.
So,
Well, we should start by saying we had a 30-day trial with this game because it is an MMO. And then how much was it for the second month that we played?
$12.
$12? What? It needs to be $11.
I know,
it's
right?
Final Fantasy 11.
Right, seriously. Drop it down $1, Square Enix. What are you thinking?
So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that for anyone who's listening to this that literally has no idea what about Final Fantasy 11. Because we were in that boat not that long ago. Let's start with the basics like we usually do. So it was developed by Square Creative Business Unit 3, Square Enix.
Third one.
It was originally released on the PS2 in 2002 in Japan, and then 2004 in North America. It was released in Windows in 2002 in Japan, and 2003 in North America, and it was released on the Xbox 360 in 2006. So this game is literally 20 years old in Japan. It's 19 years old here in America. It's an old game, and it has old technology and old servers that it's running off of.
She looks old.
Yeah, it really does. But a lot of people skipped this game because of its MMO style, because of its struggles of for me anyway, it was the struggle of having to convince my parents to buy the game, buy all the attachments to play it on the PS2 because I didn't have a computer strong enough to do this, and pay the subscription fee. So there's a lot of money roped into that. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier because the games are a little bit cheaper and, the subscription fee is still there, but, obviously our computer hardware is able to run it just fine. So, it's easier. But back then it was really difficult. So a lot of strong Final Fantasy fans, including ourselves, skipped Final Fantasy XI. The only reason why we're playing Final Fantasy XI is because we've never played Final Fantasy XI. And, we have played Final Fantasies 1 through 10 and reviewed them just like this. Now that we're on Final Fantasy XI, we really felt strong. I felt strongly on wanting to try and play this. I don't know exactly what your emotions about the game before we started was, but I know that we were pretty optimistic going into it. Like, this could be fun, but we just had no idea what we were getting into.
I think that was it. It was just, we didn't know what we were getting into. So it's just this, we're going to tackle this finally. I think that's what the optimism was. We're finally able to say we've played this game.
Yes.
And boy, can we say that now.
Right, yeah, I know. I had a complete edition of this game that I bought, maybe 10 years ago. It really was just a display piece to include on my wall of Final Fantasy to say, yeah, I have all of them, even though I didn't ever play Final Fantasy XI, but it was on the shelf, like, as a display piece. So I had it was a sealed copy of Final Fantasy XI. There were still registration keys in there. So when we sat down to play, I installed the registration keys. There was an extra key in there to give to a friend, so I gave it to Kaylie. My registration keys were the complete edition, and the registration key you got was the base game only. So we didn't really realize that until later on, and maybe we'll talk more about that. But I mean, essentially, the base game doesn't have all the expansions in it, so there were areas that Kaylie couldn't get to, and there was quest lines that Kaylie didn't see. The stuff that we did was under the base game, so it really didn't affect Kaylie a whole lot. We installed the games just fine. Well, yeah, more or less.
I made a face.
we got the registration keys in. We had to put our credit cards in, and as soon as we put our credit cards in and activate the game, it started our free trial, which was 30 days. So we had 30 days on our free trial, and then it would charge us, and then we had another 30 days until it charges us again. I think we only went through one payment, right?
Yeah.
Because we only played... We
still had like a few days when we finished.
Yeah, we started like mid-January, and, here it's the end of February, so we still have like a couple weeks or so left. So yeah, we started up the game. I played, a couple days without you, and then you kind of I think you jumped in day one to like make a character and find me on stream, but not a whole lot more than that. Then you started jumping on more regularly, and we started doing more questline stuff, talking to more people in the Final Fantasy XI community, meeting some friends. We talked about Shadow and Trillian. I keep wanting to call him Vermilion. It's so stupid. I don't know why I keep doing
Vermilion.
that. So we mentioned those two specifically because they really did help us throughout this entirety.
Well, they not only were they in chat helping us, they were in game helping us.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
Which was,
and I think
the biggest help.
Trillian wasn't originally in the server that we picked. Trillian was in a different server, but made one in our server just, I don't know, just to help us or just because, like he could or she or whoever they are. But yeah, it was really nice to have that in-game interaction.
It was kind of nice to be able to see them in-game because it kind of replicates what a new player would have felt back when this game started up. So you were meeting new people and hanging out with these people. And that's how I look at when I'm seeing them in my brain when they're talking in chat, that's their characters who I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as I recall, I think they both have female characters in-game. So like, our minds contribute them as being female. Not that they are necessarily, but either way, I mean, those two people specifically helped us out so much that they are worth talking about through this whole thing because they really did literally hold our hands through this game.
They had to drag us.
I know.
There's like just marks throughout the entire plains where they've dragged us.
Seriously. So yeah, when as a new player, you start off the game and you are given a few options. Obviously, you're going to pick your character name, but you have 16 different servers to pick from, and servers in the game, they're called worlds. The servers can only hold so many people at a time, so they have to split those people up in some way.
Which is normal.
Right, yeah, it is for an MMO. When you pick one, you really can only interact with the people within that server or that world. So if you're going to play with someone else, make sure you know what world they're in. Otherwise, it's really difficult to change worlds, as far as I understand. Oh, and all of the worlds or all of the servers are named after original classic summons, which is kind of cool.
What were we on?
We were on Odin.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yep, we were on the Odin server. You are given the option between 5 different races. I chose the Hume race.
And
humans.
I was an Elven? Elvain. Yeah. They have 2 A's. Elven.
Yeah.
I was an elf.
There are 3 starting cities.
We chose Windurst.
Yep. There are 6 starting job classes.
It's really 6.
Yeah, there's 6 of them. I chose Black Mage.
I was a warrior.
All of these things really are your base for your character. And the city that you pick is really where the majority of your storyline comes from. The storylines between each of the cities are a little different in representation of characters and base concepts, but like as a overall arc, I think they follow a similar path with like the Shadow Lord or the Shadow Lord and some of those constructs. I think that as a whole, they're very similar, but individually they're quite different. So the story we're going to talk about is specifically the Windurst storyline. We only played the first 5 chapters or ranks of the storyline. We mainly did this because it was a pain. By the time we made it to a acceptable level to move on, it was already getting to the end of our play cycle, and we really just needed to beat the game. And so we did, with a lot of help from, the folks that we mentioned before. There were a lot of things against us playing the way that we did, and we'll talk more about that later. But for sure, if you're going to play this game as a new player, I suggest just being ready to take it easy and don't try to push yourself on any time limit, because that's where we struggled, is because we have a very specific time crunch on how we do these podcast episodes. Pushing this podcast out yet another month would have just been
torture.
Yeah, it would have been really difficult.
It would have been torture for you, for me, and everyone watching the stream.
Yeah.
I mean, it got to the point where we were level grinding so much that really people even stopped popping in to talk to us, which was fine, but it made the grind that much grindier.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem with the game. Again, we'll get into level grinding and stuff like that, but like the problem that we were having is that because we're playing this game for the story,
it made it difficult.
It really made a lot of the game just us trying to level up, which isn't all that entertaining, depending on the way you look at it. In any case, we're going to talk about the storyline, the Windurst storyline specifically,
because that's what we chose. Yeah,
there's 3 major cities. Well, there's 4 major cities, but there's 3 starting cities. There's Windurst, there's Bostock, and there's what's the last one called?
Yep.
It's here. Sandaria.
Oh, right. Sanderitos. We were making up the names as we went.
Yes, we were, and it was terrible. And
I liked Sanderitos. That was my favorite one.
and that's another problem that we're going to have with this story is that, yes, it's a Final Fantasy game. Yes, the Final Fantasy names are difficult. This one, especially so. So I apologize to all of those listening who are fans of the game and know these names like the back of your hand. We do not. When we started playing this game in January, it was brand new to us. So we literally have no experience prior to this. So, we're still noobs. I do want to point out, though, I put in 76 hours and 4 minutes into this game. We recorded your time too, Kaylie. Your time was 63 hours and 35 minutes. We put in more than normal time for any normal Final Fantasy game. And
we still didn't get the whole story.
Oh yeah, we're still noobs. Yeah. Like for sure. Oh, yeah. For sure, well, we're still noobs to the game. I can't say
I did not feel like a question mark by the end.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Because you start off with the little icons at the beginning.
Yeah. When you're dropped into the world, you're given a little question mark icon just to kind of give other players a heads up that you might be new and you might not know what you're doing. That if they have a chance to help,
if they're doing something stupid, which we did a lot.
A lot of. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I kept getting lost in Windurst. At this point, I'm looking back, I'm like, how did I get lost in Windurst?
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's easy, like, the whole area kind of look the same, and it's all similar to each other. So, like, if you take a wrong turn, you just are like, wait, I'm not supposed to be by the Chocobo stables? Yes. Like, this is incorrect. So, yeah, that does get funny. When you first drop into the game, you really want to spend your time getting to level 5 as quickly as possible and starting the trust missions. That's how that's the direction that we were given, and that's the advice that I give you as a new player. Just get to level 5, do the trust system stuff, look it up if you need to, talk to somebody if you can, but the trust system will basically give you the opportunity to play this game more or less solo for quite a while. Thankfully. And that's how we did it. Granted, we played together and we had a lot of external help, but, still the trust system is really good. So when you start the game, that's what you're going to want to do right out of the gate. But all that aside, we're going to talk about the story arc for Final Fantasy XI, at least for Windurst. Yeah. And we'll make our best effort. I have freaking...
You wrote quite a few notes here.
5 pages. I have 5 pages of story here.
I'm not gonna lie, I was really impressed you typed all of this up.
By myself.
In one night.
That's true,
I couldn't believe that you'd actually spent... I was looking at all these pages and like, you spent a long time writing this out.
Well, and here's the other problem, is that this game is really old, and the way that the story is structured, there is no, like... the movie of Final Fantasy XI. Like, there is some of that in there, but it's so hard to find the one that's relevant to you because of the way that this game is structured with the 3 different cities and different storylines for each city, and what storyline do you focus on, and which storyline is, the best one to stick with. from everyone that we talked to, which was not a whole lot of people, but quite a few, people who have played the game from the beginning, they seem to agree that the Winter storyline or your city storyline is the one that represents the game, the base game. And so that's what we went with. The amount of work that we put into it, we got to, like I said, we finished chapter 5, which is like rank 5 in the game, and it ends on a really good conclusion. And I feel like there's enough information here to tell a decent story and feel like I got enough out of it to give it a good score.
I want to say one of our people in the chat actually said that at one point this was the game.
Yeah, I think so. And it makes sense. The way that it's laid out, it feels like a conclusion.
Yeah.
And then everything after that is just like extra story on top of what's already built. There's a little bit of hints and whatnots about stuff that isn't fully tied off. So like obviously there's more storyline to investigate. Right. There's we really have only scratched the surface of this game. So when you're listening to us talk about this, just know where we're coming from right out of the gate. It's minimal what we've experienced, but again, we don't have the time to dedicate 20 years worth of experience into this game like some people have. Yeah. So keep that in mind while you're listening to us, that we're absolutely noobs. However, I did a lot of research on the story. I feel like I got a lot of it fleshed out. I did have to reference some of my own streams to try and figure out what the heck was being talked about, because even the Wikipedias, I don't know. The Wikipedias have a lot of information, and some of them have direct dialogue, but it's not all of the dialogue, or it's missing, we did it this way and it's missing that piece. So I had to go back and reference our own stream to try and figure out what the heck actually happened. So this is my best representation of our story experience. So keep that in mind. It's definitely not going to be perfect, and a lot of the names are going to be butchered all over the place, but I will do my best. Also, I wrote this from my perspective. I intended it to be our adventure in Final Fantasy XI. Because
it was.
That's how the game is presenting it too. The quote, adventurer is you, and you're the main character.
Yeah.
And the story revolves around you, though the reality is it's like insert character here.
Yeah.
So, take that with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, this is, every character experiences this, in some way, but it feels personal. So that's how I wrote the story here. If you would like to skip the story, I will put a timestamp below where you can jump to that timestamp and just
later.
Skip the story. It shouldn't be that long. Maybe an hour, probably 2 hours.
We must speed talk.
Yes,
I don't want to spend any more time on this game.
Hey, we could go back to the game instead.
Please, what have I done? I have a family.
Don't do it.
My family hasn't seen me in 2 months.
Oh, man. All right, ready?
Yep.
The Federation of Winders, an ancient capital nurtured by the boughs of a great tree, blessed by the magical waters, and protected by the moon and stars.
Beautiful and sweet.
Beautiful. So we're dropped into Winders, and we're greeted by Agito
Marojito.
Thank you, Kaylie. And his sister, Aparuru. Aparuru. Anyway, they send us out to make friends with the people around and implore us to adventure through Vana'Diel, which is the world. As new adventurers, we need to make a name for ourselves, and we can do this by talking to the gate guard and completing different important missions that they assign to us. And they're really just reported issues around the town of Winders, and the gate guard assigns those to qualified ranked adventurers,
so
such as depending on how we qualify,
depending on our rank.
So the gate guard gives us our first mission, and that is to help the magic in Harutoto. Thank you.
Ruins.
The ruins that
help find this minister.
Yeah. As it turns out, Agito
Marujito.
Ajito. I'm just going to call him Ajito.
Vegeta.
Yeah, let's not start that,
I'm sorry. It's the only way we got through this whole thing.
I know, I agree. He is the magical minister, and we find him and his sister arguing over some type of forbidden magic that had killed spell weavers in the past when it was used before. After Apururu leaves, which is his sister, she leaves in a huff, and Ajito asks us, the adventurers, to help find the broken mana orbs. When we find the magical orbs, we take them back to Winders, and then we just complete our mission from there. The majority there is really just introducing us to Ajito. They're researching some like taboo magic down in the ruins. We then meet up with Apururu, who's set up in the Cardigan workshop.
It's Cardian.
Cardian, yeah.
We called them the Cardigans the entire time.
We did. They're Cardians. So basically, they're like these little robot.
Were they sentient?
I think
kind of.
I think they kind of were. They kind of weren't. They are charged. They use charged orbs magic to be able to give them animation. After that, they're given some sort of task or information to be able to tell people around town. So if you talk to any of them that are around, they'll give you information, but they talk in like stars or something. It's really interesting. So she gives you this task to go out to charge some orbs for these Cardians.
So we go to a different magical ruins where we have to go charge the orbs.
Yep.
But that's when the rogue Cardians, which must have been sentient because they actually come rolling in asking for those orbs. So that must mean that they're giving them some kind of...
Well, they do explain about these Cardians later, how those ones were used in the war and that they have been attacking other people. They went wild during the war 20 years ago. Then they've been attacking and stealing orbs ever since. So obviously this group has been a problem for a while. However, when we approach them, they demand the orbs that we just got done charging. Luckily, Ori was standing just outside, and he instructs us to give over the orbs and that he'll take care of any problems, but to go back to Apururu and tell what happened. When we get back, she explains more about the group of Cardians and how they went wild. But basically that was it. She's just like, okay, well, good enough for me. We go to the Rhinoceros.
Right.
And we're asked to deliver some food to the local Yaguto monster nest that's nearby. And this is really to try and keep peace between the monsters, they're called beastmen, the beastmen and Windurst. So we take food offerings to the
Yaguto monsters.
Yes. But when we get back, we find that Ajito is there talking with the Rhinoceros researcher who gave us the task, trying to get a gate key.
He is looking for the laboratory.
Yeah, he's looking for the laboratory and he's trying to get a key from this researcher. However, the researcher doesn't have the key. In fact, the minister of the Rhinoceros has the key and is not willing to give it to anyone. So anyway, Jito just like scurries off before we can really talk to him. And we just kind of call it a mission after that.
Yeah,
like
that was weird.
We just catch up to this little like clip.
That's weird.
Yeah. All right. Anyway. So after being awarded rank 2, we're pushed into our next mission and we are told that a local cat burglar
is in possession of this Book of the Gods tome. And this book has apparently been missing for decades.
And there's rumors now going around that this local cat burglar might have it in their possession. We're specifically talking to Optostry Minister, who is like the magical librarian. Yeah, he's the bookkeeper of all the like magical tomes. And he wants us to investigate this claim and go and talk to this cat burglar to figure out exactly what is going on and if we can get the book back or not. The only lead that we have is that Nana is the one that's holding this book. She's the cat burglar. She's a cat burglar because her race is like the cats. I don't know the name of the race off the top of my head. But yeah, so we go and we talk to her. And as soon as we talk to her, she immediately tries to rob us. And,
as cat burglars do.
Yes. However, while she's talking to us and trying to rob us, the Cardians show up and demand that their stolen item is given back to them. After some pressuring, Nana tells them to look in the house of the hero, hoping that they're just going to leave and leave her alone. But the Cardians threaten Nana's life, saying basically that she's gone too far this time. And luckily, Ando shows up.
Agito.
Ando.
Ando.
I don't know where
Andre.
Sorry.
Yes, Agito shows up and confronts all of them, demanding the key to the house of the hero from Nana.
Nana knows that she's not going to be able to flee this time, so they all just head off. they just head off, kind of ignoring us as a group or as a team, just ignoring us and going off. We end up following them, and Agito does end up getting his hands on the Book of the Gods. He's horrified that the book is completely blank. He says, "The time for the Book of the Gods to lose its magic has come."
Dun, dun,
kind of giving this ominous tone to, obviously this is a bad sign. We rush back to Winders to tell the
Optistery
minister, magical bookkeeper, the bad news. And when he finds out, he says, it's said that the Book of the Gods, it's said that when the Book of the Gods loses its magic,
it returns to the blank pages.
Right.
And that means the shadows of destruction will set upon our world. Dun dun.
Optistery minister is pretty certain that Ando is just lying. Ando. Gosh,
Agito. There's not even an N in there.
I know. Well, the J and the I make an N sound in my head.
Ando. Sorry. Okay, so the minister is certain that Agito is lying and says that he will be reported to the Star Sibyl and that we are not to talk about this. It's hush hush, honey.
Yeah, and it makes sense because if there is this ominous sign that...
Yeah, you don't want people freaking out,
right,
basically.
And because this hasn't happened, it's been 20 years since Shadow has been upon the land. They're really certain that there's no way that this could be true. So they're just going to report it to the Star Sibyl. The Star Sibyl is Winder's,
I thought she just was their,
she's their leader. She's their, head.
The head. The star.
Yeah,
she's the star.
She is the star. The next day, we talk to the gate guard to get new orders. We're told that we need to report to Heaven's Tower and talk to Kupipi. Kupipi is the secretary for the Star Sibyl. As she's trying to give us some orders, that's when
Samia,
that's a good one, yeah. Samia
Lafina. Samia Lafina. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that sounds right.
Sure.
Samia Lafina? Yeah, sure. She walks in and she looks at our resume, must have been impressed because she instantly has Kupipi process our mission papers right away. Kupipi gives us letter to the consults, which is instructing us to go to Bastak and Sandaria, gather information, and obviously help them with any tasks that they need. I'm not sure why we specifically had to go and do this, but maybe it's just something that rank 2 people do. I don't know.
Obviously,
we're rank 2 now, so let's go and do this. We walk all the way to Mahara, yeah, and we find the boat that heads to Bastak. It's quite a long boat ride, by the way.
A very long boat ride and a very long wait for the boat to come back.
Well, we have to wait for the right boat.
Yeah.
Once we get to Bastak, we talk to the Windurstrian. We go to the Windurstrian Council, where Pat Pot gives us a task to head into the local mines to get some mithril sand. However, we need to talk to the president first. So we walk in and talk to the president of Bastak, and he's just far too busy. So he tells us to go and talk to Gorham, who is in the local bar. Gorham knows more about the mines, and he knows that they're overrun by the local beastmen. And the Quadav has been killing anyone who enters the area.
So he arms us with some pickaxes.
Yeah.
Take these. You can go mining.
I think the idea is, well, if you're gonna go, here's pickaxes, here's how you mine.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Here's how you use the machine. He gives us all the information we need. While we're in the bar, Leon shows up, who's this girl.
She's kind of like listening in across the bar.
Yeah, right. And she says that the Quadavs are getting more and more powerful due to the Beastmen obtaining some sort of new leader or new direction. And she explains that the mines are really the Quadav's holy land, and it makes sense for them to be defending them,
right?
Defending their livelihood from Bastak, like at all costs. So with that in mind, we set off for the mines, armed with our pickaxes and knowledge of the refining machine. We do manage to collect the mithril sand pretty quick, and we head back to Pat Pot to deliver the mithril sand. He's quite happy with us, and he sends us off to Sandoria. Sandoria.
And we got there in suitable fashion.
Yes, on crab mounts, of course. How else do you get around Vana'Diel, if not by crab mounts?
Crab mounts, that's right.
So, while mounted on our red crabs, we make our way to the elven city of Sandoria. And
anyway.
We hunt down Casaroro in the Winderstrian Council there. Casaroro had heard of our success in Bastak, that Halvar has a special mission for us, and that we're to go and talk to him at the castle, the palace, or whatever.
Castle.
Yeah, right. I put that in there because it's not really called the castle, but
I thought it was. I'm sorry.
It essentially is the castle.
I believed you.
It's a castle.
It's just like, you're just gonna have to go to the castle.
I mean, essentially it is, but it's not called that in the game.
He could have told me that, and I still would have gone to just quote unquote castle.
Right, I know. Yep. So we hunt down Halvar, who tells us about the orcs in the Galesburg outpost. They're getting overly intelligent, and they're starting to use different supplies and weapons. And we're supposed to go and investigate the situation and report back as soon as possible. We set out of the city on foot for this outpost, and we head deeper through the outpost into the Yagudo Garado, where two Elven are fighting the strange flying demon. The Elven are discussing...
They're pretty much talking about that probably the orcs have a bigger power behind them. But they end up actually leaving us to fight the demon.
Yeah.
They're like, by the way, we're leaving.
They're like, oh, there's adventurers here. We'll just let the adventurers deal with this. And then they got the heck out of there.
I mean, same.
Right? So the demon's name is Spotter. He's really happy to be able to have new prey. And he summons Wyvern of Darkness, which is just a dragon.
Worm of Darkness.
After we defeat the dragon and Spotter, Leon shows up late as usual, because NPCs always do that to us.
They do.
Obviously, she couldn't just show up and help fight. In any case, Spotter says that he's a servant to the Shadow Lord, and that the Shadow Lord is coming back.
He's back.
You spelled Leon's name as Lion the rest of the...
I don't know why that would have happened. Leon just takes off, and we make our way back to Sandoria, where Casaroro has already heard the news of our success, presents us with a kindred report that we take back to Windurst.
So we do.
By success, I think he just means that, like, we did good by finding that there is something else going on there, but, like, we're not supposed to talk about the Shadow Lord stuff.
We don't talk about Shadow Lord.
Exactly. So we head back to Windurst, we give Kupipi the report, she makes us official adventurers with an adventure certificate.
She probably printed that off of Google and signed it.
Probably. She just changed the title to Windurst. So, after talking to the Gate Lord... I
am the Gate Lord! Charles! You can't be telling the adventurers that! You're a gate guard! I am the mighty Gate Lord.
Stop, you're making it worse.
I'm so
You're
sorry.
making me laugh harder.
It's the only way I could get through this whole game. The whole game was just sarcastic remarks.
It totally
we
was.
made our own lore.
I know we did.
You sent me a gif while I was sleeping. It's just been terrible. It's just
Oh my
terrible.
gosh. Did you enjoy that
Yes,
gift,
I
by the
did.
way? You didn't react or nothing to
I was sleeping.
Well, yeah, but
it was great
you
to wake up
in the
to.
morning.
Anyway,
gosh.
I
Anyway.
digress. So we talked to the gate guard, and we're given new commands to report to the Heavens Tower, where Kupipi gives us access to the stairway all the way to the top of the tower to meet up with Samia again.
The funny thing about the key that she gives us, she's like, and I'm going to need this back. And we never give it back to her. When we get up to the top of the tower, Samia talks about the role of being a Sybil guard.
Or Lord.
Or Lord, depending on who you talk to. And how the Star Sybil is able to see and protect the future. Basically, that is her. She has a
her
power
role.
to be able to view the future, and
She reads the stars.
the whole point is that she can protect against whatever the future is. Samia specifically says, Kaylie will quote,
Do not worry, as she, the Star Sybil, has already sensed imminent revival of the Shadow Lord.
That's not how she talked.
I mean, she didn't talk at all, so I mean, she might
Yeah.
have. That was pretty darn good, Kaylie.
Thank you. Agito?
Agito attempts to enter the Star Sibyl's chamber and is
Scandalous.
instantly denied access. He tries to explain the blank pages of the Book of the Gods, but is instantly dismissed as a joke, and he proclaims that he will then do his best to save Windurst from these dark times. So afterwards, Samia gives us a mission to follow Agito and find out what exactly he's planning on doing. We follow him to Castle Azuru or
Ostroja.
I just make up things.
Ostroja.
Where we find
Agito.
Agito, and he is like locked up in a room where he'd already talked to the Agudo King, who's the beastman in the area.
Well, yeah.
He figures that we were ordered to follow him out there, but he gives us a bit of insight that the first Star Sybil, who originally gained the powers of the stars and the moon at the full moon fountain, was originally there to protect Windurst and left historical texts for future Sibyls to be able to continue her legacy. And that's where the Book of the Gods come from. So without this Book of the Gods, without there being writing in the pages, the Star Sybil is kind of left with power, but not knowing how to use it, with no context. So we head back to Windurst to report to Samia, who commends our efforts and will report directly to the Star Sybil and make up a plan for what's going on. The next day, we're given new orders to head straight to the Heavens Tower, where we speak directly to the Star Sybil herself. She appoints us as
ambassadorial envoy in the Grand Duchy of Juno. What these grand titles.
Yeah.
I mean, even the gate guards are called lords.
Gate lords now. What's funny about that is even after she says that, she's like, now I know this is a hefty title for you, but
It's just hefty because it's hard to pronounce all at once.
do you accept? And if you accept, she just moves on. But if you say no, then Samia steps in and is like, how dare you?
Really?
Yes.
I didn't do that option.
Yeah, no, I didn't either, but I read it in
Oh,
the
that's
context.
funny.
So yeah, and she's just like, how dare you speak to the Star Sybil this way? And
You accept your task.
the Star Sibyl's like, it's okay. They'll come back when they're ready. So, in any case, we are to travel to Juno.
Juno has an embassy of Windurst there.
Right.
And we are to offer our services as needed.
Of course. But of course.
But naturally, we have to go on our crab mounts.
Yes, I mean, we only travel via crab mounts now.
Only.
I mean, if
There
we
is
have to
no other option.
if we have to step foot on the ground, it's for good reason.
Only because you can't mount your mounts in this
That's
area.
correct. That's the only reason. We make our way to Juneau on the back of our crab mounts, and we head to the Windurstrian embassy, expecting to meet with the ambassador. However, the ambassador is not in Juneau. He's currently in
Dulkfut Tower and is unavailable.
The ambassador's secretary instructs us to go meet him in the tower just to check up on him. And
as luck would have it, the tower is no easy feat. There was sarcasm written in these notes.
Yes, I know.
So, yeah, this is where we actually needed assistance. Big time.
We needed quite a bit of assistance to make it
a big labyrinth.
Yeah, but I think that we got through a lot of that. This was the one where it was just we had to climb all the floors. Then we climbed to the top and we got the key. And then we had to climb back down. Or no, we took the elevator back down. And I think we did most of it by ourselves, but then Trillian met us halfway, like towards the top, and then helped us get back down afterwards.
Oh, yes. I was thinking this was somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it's not that one.
So yeah, we take the elevator up and find the Windurstrian ambassador, Hemji Kemji.
Hemji Kemji. He had been hit in the head by some monsters and woke up in the area. We escort him back to Juneau, and he thanks us properly and tells us about our official mission there in Juneau, even though we just finished one.
Hemji Kemji explains that the Archduke of Juneau needs someone for a special mission, and we had been picked for this task. We won the lottery.
Yeah, well, surprise!
He gives us an audience permit, and we head off to meet with him personally. The Archduke Cam Lanat explains that the Beastmen are gaining power by stones called Magicite, and our task is to collect Magicite from 3 known locations in an effort to stop the Shadow Lord and his army, naturally. We're instructed to stop by and see Aldo for more information on Magicite. So Aldo welcomes us in and begins to explain Magicite locations when his poor sister, Verena, walks in. And she discusses about a new order from the palace to give to the friendly beastmen removed from town. Because there's like, you've got a bunch of these beastmen around town that are like friendlies, I guess. They're just like townspeople.
And because the Archduke is so afraid of the beastmen around, the beastmen that are getting stronger outside of town, he's like, you know what? Let's just send all of the beastmen out of town because we don't want any of them causing damage. It makes sense from that perspective, but the reality is the beastmen haven't been aggressive in any way, the ones that are in town.
Verena raises the point that the beastmen in town have never hurt anyone. And while Aldo agrees, the palace like you said, they feel like the beastmen aggression is enough to remove them from town. So, a goblin named Fickblix walks in and greets Verena, and the two of them leave the room. And all of these names, the entire time we were reading them, I'm like, we're gonna mess this up on the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's a mess. It's a hot mess for sure. The funny thing about this section specifically, not just the Aldo part, but literally, like, Aldo is talking about Magicite, Verena walks in and talks about the aggression thing and the order, she leaves, and the cutscene ends. Like, that's it. It's this awkward moment of, okay, I'm here to talk to you about this. The cutscene is us talking about that, and then his sister walks in, and then the focus goes to her instead, and then the cutscene just ends. Like, obviously, we're supposed to go follow her, which is what we end up doing, but it's just funny that we don't even finish the conversation with Aldo. Like, it just ends. That's
it. So yeah, we follow the two of them outside where a Taro named Pius Bia is helping them grow flowers, which was so weird.
Yeah, I know.
Though it seems that they might never actually grow, because I think they're growing flowers in from a different region. I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
So Verena heads back home, and Flickblix goes to Muck's shop.
Muckfix Junk Shop.
And by the way, all of these names, they sounded so inappropriate in my brain, and I'm trying so carefully to articulate my words.
You're doing very well. You're much better than all of my attempts.
So we follow Fickblix and Muckvik's junk shop, and Muck tells us that we need a special torch to get into the castle of Ostroja. Luckily for us, Fickblix has won, and is also heading to the castle to tell the beastmen to settle down. Settle down.
Yeah, so Thick Blix, both of these characters are beastmen, and obviously they're a little
like a
concerned
goblin,
about... Yeah, they're
aren't they?
goblins. They're a little concerned about the issue going on in Juneau as well. We approach Mukvik, and he just starts talking about the castle. I would assume that as characters, we would have said, hey, we're heading to get the magicite in this castle, you know... And then he explains that we need the special torch, but luckily we can get one from Flickblix. But he's heading there anyway, so we just follow him to the castle. However, just as soon as he leaves, Verena stops in, and she just misses him. She's now super concerned that he's heading to the castle, but might be mistaken to other adventurers as a bad beastman, and he might get hurt. So she runs after him.
Right.
So we follow them to Castle Ostroja, and we find Flickbix, who's in some real rough shape. Obviously, he'd been attacked either by his own kind or perhaps an adventurer. Verena runs in and finds him and kneels down next to him. Obviously, they care for each other. Flickbix shows some serious courage as he talks to her about making every effort to keep the peace, you know, even with his last breath. Verena has her last moments with him and says, there's more to life than just what you see in front of you. We're all flowing on the river of life, not just watching from the banks. She has these deep feelings for beastmen as
a whole.
No, just as people, like as life. Sure. And the way that people treat beastmen is wrong, and I think that that's the direction that she's going. She also has some sort of affinity with beastmen, able to see from their perspective in some way.
Now, is that why Aldo was so mean to her? They don't really explain. He just was terrible.
Aldo wasn't that mean to her. If you read the text, we took it way out of context.
Well, that's true.
Aldo wasn't that mean to her. He was in the middle of a conversation when she walks in, and he's like, whoa, can't you see we're in the middle of this conversation? And she's like, yeah, but have you heard the news? And, talks about this important topic that they both shared.
We really did take it too far.
Yeah, no, we totally did. If you guys want some context, in the stream when we meet Aldo, he's really rude to Verena when
super rude.
She comes walking in and he goes, "Hey, can't you see we're with someone?" And we took it way too far. Where then we were making up our own lore. Where Aldo whips her and it just is terrible.
Well, to be fair, she's got this very timid personality, and his is not timid apparently. So yeah. That was our fault. My apologies.
We took it way too far. Verena then leaves and goes back to town, and we walk deeper into the castle to find the magicite. But as soon as we touch the magicite, we get some glimpse of the past, where we see a character named Ralgrim. He's adventuring in some way. His adventures lead him and his team to slay a bunch of beastmen who are simply trying to protect their own eggs. And these beastmen don't even have treasure. That's what they're there to collect treasure, but they're really just slaying beastmen just because. Ralgrim and Cornelia, they're sympathetic towards the beastmen, and they're trying to open their eyes to their party mate, Ulrich, trying to get him to see the situation, but he's too blinded by the treasure to give any crap about the bloodshed. Then we flash to another scene where Ulrich and Ralgrim are duking it out. Ulrich is about to deliver a final blow when Cornelia steps in front of the blade, sacrificing herself. Ulrich runs away in shame of killing her, and Ralgrim is left to mourn the loss of his friend. So then we wake up from our trance.
Our daze.
And we make our way to... You looked up this place. Do you remember how to pronounce it now?
Beto, I guess.
Beto.
That's how we're pronouncing it. Apologies.
We were in our stream. We were calling it Beatrix, though that is absolutely not right.
We're stupid.
But
we knew it wasn't right. Yeah,
we knew it wasn't right.
Beto.
But we have to go there to find another piece of magicite. We make our way down into the Quallen Dome, And again, as soon as we touch the Magicite, we have another glimpse of a different time. This time it's the Star Sibyl, and she's talking with Kahara Baraha, and they're talking about summoning magic. And the Star Sibyl is reluctant to use such power. Then we have another flash with Agido, who's running through the Agrudo land to approach the Agrudo throne. Yagudo? Yeah, yep. You're right. Agido is asking about the full moon fountain and how the towers in
Saruta Baruta?
Yep.
Sure.
That the lands around the surrounding areas of Winders are draining energy. The Yagudo specifically say,
"Make your way deep into the central tower of the Horutoto ruins. There you will see firsthand what the Star Sibyl and those summoners really did."
Which really kind of leads to there's something... Star Sibyl summoned something wrong. Something weird happened when the Star Sibyl and Kahara Bahara were playing with summoning. Like, there was something weird that happened there.
So don't summon demons, folks.
Yeah, essentially. So then we see one last clip of the Star Sibyl crying out for Kahara Bahara for help. Then we find ourselves back in the dome, we acquire the Magicite, and we are ready to go to the last location.
And at one point, were we like, that was kind of weird. Maybe we shouldn't do that again. What if we had touched it with like a rag? Would that not have happened?
Yeah, right, I know. It's like, we keep hallucinating every time we touch these rocks.
Maybe we shouldn't. Rocks.
Yeah, no.
Maybe we'll wear gloves next time.
So then we head for Devoy for our last Magicite piece. Devoy is a bit of a maze, and we have a lot of trouble making our way through that maze. We're trying to find... we have to break a magic barrier to gain access to the Magicite room. And just like before, as soon as we touch it, the Magicite shows us a glimpse of something...
Didn't learn our lesson.
Yeah, I know. This time around, we see Sandaria King Destin as he talks with Franz Mage. Talking about the human forces looking for something in the northern lands and asking Franz Mage to go and keep a close eye on the situation. Franz Mage ventures out and finds nothing but wasteland in the area. However, Ulrich, if you remember from a previous vision, he comes running up to Franz Mage and asks for help. That Raugrim and Cornelia had fallen into a crevasse. Upon investigation, they really don't find anything, and Franz Mage clearly is suspicious about the situation, but really just dismisses it. We get a new scene entirely where Franz Mage is walking through the Sandaria corridor, and he talks to somebody and seems to have died with something that involves the Raugrim incident, but again, not really sure what. Yeah, it was weird. We then collect the Magicite, and Leon walks up, suspiciously timed again, and investigates the Magicite with us. Just then, a shadow looms over the Magicite, and the Shadow Lord shows that he's regained his power and is going to make Vana'Diel his grave for all the citizens. With that in mind, we hastily run back to Juneau and drop off the Magicite and report about the Shadow Lord's return. However, Camelot is excited to...
He's excited that you have obtained the knowledge of the gathering beastmen, now knowing that they are attempting to resurrect the Shadow Lord. And he seems to think that it's impossible without the fourth crystal seal, which is assumed to be in Castle Zaval.
Camelot then gets urgent news that the three nations have been attacked by beastmen and that we need to report back to the embassy. And just as we're getting ready to leave, Camelot's brother,
Eldnarsh.
He sends the captain, the Juneau captain, off to find Verena, because she has, quote, nifty powers that he wants to, quote, play with.
Don't be suspicious.
All right, no, seriously. If anyone's going to be pulling what we were talking about with Aldo, It's going to be this dude. We quickly head back to Winders to check on the Star Sibyl.
Her and Samia.
Yep, her and
They greet
Samia.
us.
They fill us in about the state of Winders and talk about how 20 years ago Castle Zaval was sealed with a talisman. And that talisman was broken and shared between the 3 nations of Vana'Diel. These 3 pieces were given to the ruling cities, and the one in Windurst has been stolen. But the Star Sibyl and Samia are going to go to the rest of the nations to try and see whether or not they still have theirs, but instructs us to go to the lost city of Fayin in the north, where we're supposed to be checking on a 4th seal that was placed there many years prior. So we travel to Fayin in search of this seal, and we don't find anything, but some large scythe-wielding skeletons.
As most skeletons wield.
Well, and of course, as soon as we defeat them, somebody, a big Galak known as Zed, he tells us that the seal was already broken many years prior, and there's no way of really adding a different seal to it, that we really shouldn't care much about the Beastmen. There's really no way that the Shadow Lord could possibly come back to power. And then he just leaves. So we return back to Winders with high hopes, obviously. And we report to the Star Sibyl that the last seal is in fact broken. And she's very concerned for the safety of Winders and draws her focus to Castle Zaval. Really, we want to prevent the Shadow Lord from resurrecting at all costs. We set off for Castle Zaval. The journey is long, and we find our way to the throne room with lots of help from Shadow. Guys, you guys, thank you so much. Anyway, we find our way to the throne room, and as soon as we enter, Zed walks in and witnesses the Shadow Lord being resurrected before our eyes. It seems like Zed had originally defeated the Shadow Lord 20 years ago, and the Shadow Lord and him exchanged some words regarding what had happened 30 years ago when the Shadow Lord was still a Galka was still a Galka, which is one of the races, by the way, if you don't know that already. The Shadow Lord is bitter about Ulrich and Cornelia dying to protect him.
Yeah.
When all he wanted was to help the Beastmen to begin with. The Shadow Lord talks about finding this hidden power that granted him control over the Nether Beasts, which I don't think we've really seen yet. We've heard rumors of them. He tapped into this deep fury and was reborn as the Shadow Lord, who's now undying and stands before us. Zed is quickly defeated, and the Shadow Lord sets his gaze on us. We take down the Shadow Lord with lots of help from our friends. The Shadow Lord is reluctant to stay down. However, Zed is still alive somehow and yells out the Shadow Lord's real name. Quote, "Search your memories for your true self. You are Ralgrim, Gulka's greatest swordsman." And this is where we learn more about Ralgrim and his suffering with... He's given this task to be the talk keeper, to keep the Galak's memories, and all of those memories are filled with nothing but pain and anger. So he suffered with this memory of his entire race all his life. With saying his name, the Shadow Lord dissolves and looks forward to meeting with Cornelia once again.
Love.
Leon shows up late,
Naturally.
as usual, and helps us out of the throne room. We say our goodbyes to both her and Zed and return to Windurst. The Star Sibyl welcomes us and is happy to hear the news that the Shadow Lord's end. She says, oh no, this is just a quote from the game. The legend goes on to say, "From the darkest depths of the earth, the warrior of the crystal rose."
The end.
The end. The end of our story, anyway.
Our terrible retelling. We're like the Galka Talekeeper, and we also did a terrible job.
Oh yes. Nothing but pain and anger.
Well, and that summarizes our game for Final Fantasy XI.
If you skip the story, welcome back. That was probably for the best, to be honest.
Probably.
We did our best to talk about the story. So, Kaylie, what did you think about the story as a whole?
I was not into it.
What do you think about the story now? Now that we've kind of organized it a little bit better.
In my opinion, it's not a typical Final Fantasy story. Not in a way that I enjoyed the past Final Fantasy stories. It's nice that you kind of have this, like, back to the medieval-y kind
vibe.
But the story as a whole, for one thing, it's funny, we played all this time, 36, or no, not 30, it was 60-some hours.
60-some hours, yeah.
And I really didn't feel like the story was that much during those times. And, like, seeing it all written out like this and talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, all of this did happen, but it's almost like every mission we started was part of this whole story, but it kind of didn't feel like that either. And it just, I don't know, I didn't personally like it. I felt like the story was just kind of blah. It was, the ending bits with Raugrim and all that tragic story of, like, the Shadow Lord was very interesting, but the most important piece was such a small piece in the overall story.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really enjoy the story when I was playing in the heat of it. But to be fair, I wasn't that focused on the story. It was more about
how are we going to get through this game?
Like, yeah. It was more about the, like, getting it done aspect than actually reading the story and trying to obtain it and retain it.
Though, with it being an MMO, a big part of this game, of these types of games, is a lot of the side stuff and the fetch quests and all that stuff. So it makes sense that they're filling it in with this stuff. So you're trying not to let that influence it, but at the same time, that means that the whole story overall is just given to you in pieces, that some of which I forgot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're looking at this in micro cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like, all of this, all that we went over was really told in micro cutscenes. Like, you could have told the same if you sat and just watched the cutscenes. One, none of it would make any sense because not all of the cutscenes were put in. Sorry, I don't know how to word this. Like, not all of the dialogue was put into a cutscene. So, like, some cutscenes, like if you were to just watch cutscenes, they wouldn't make any sense story. Because you'd have no idea who are these people, where are they going, and whatever. Yeah. But if you're looking at it from, like, an entire dialogue perspective, it makes more sense. But again, you're given to that in such small doses because you go to the gate guard, you're given a little bit of a context story, you go and you talk to someone, then you spend 2 hours in a dungeon. And then you go back and you get a little bit more story, and then you go and you start the process over again. So, like, you're getting the story in these small teaspoon doses that by the time you actually get to something that you need to, like, what's his, I still can't pronounce his stupid name. Agito, yeah. He's like a main character of this entire storyline.
I didn't realize it until I read the freaking story here today, and we played for 2 months.
I know, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, that's the point that I'm making, is that the way that they tell the story in these small doses, to retain the story is really difficult. And, like, literally, there was no, for me, as a single solo mind, was not able to piece this together. I literally had to find dialogue scripts on the internet to be able to piece the story back together, along with my memory of how we played the game, and a little bit of help from our stream,
our task force
archive stream, to be able to piece this together in a way that made some sense.
We are trying to look at this game from a brand new perspective, and if you're going in wanting the story, that's a difficult task.
Yeah, and I think that there are some tips that we can talk about in gameplay. There's ways that you can play this game depending on your goals of the game. So like if you're planning on playing this game just for story, maybe don't start with
Final Fantasy 11?
No. Maybe don't start with any of the storyline until you're already level like 80. And then play through, like, crush the story and retain it and enjoy it and do the mission side by side. Because for us, the first half of the game, when we were over leveled, went really fast. Like the missions went really quick and we were able to get through it. And so the story like just kind of flowed together a little better. But the biggest problem that I had with this entire story is they name dropped all over the place. So I didn't know who's who,
Right.
and they're these big complex names. I'm not remembering any of them. And so when they start bringing characters back, unless they had a very unique like outfit like Leon or, something like that, then it's like, oh yeah, I know who this is. But like the little Taro guys, they all look the same to me. Like I didn't know who was who. So visually, I wasn't segregating any characters as one specific character because to me, they all seem similar.
Right.
So, mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. Square Enix made mistakes on or Squaresoft at the time, made mistakes on how they presented this game. And I feel like it just got lost as we were trying to play it. I mean, granted, we were not focused on the story as much as we could have been, but still, the way that it was broken up was not ideal for storytelling.
I agree.
That said, having gone over the story, I kind of enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed the direction they were going. I enjoyed this following, what's his name again? Agito, yeah. Following him around is interesting. There's obviously lots of loose ends that may be tied up if we finish the entirety of it. I really felt that the ending the Shadow Lord was a good stopping point because of the way the buildup was with, okay, we're doing all this, and oh my gosh, the Book of the Gods is empty, and that means the Shadow Lord is coming back, and then the Shadow Lord is back, and oh my gosh, like, we gotta defend, we gotta make sure that all the seals are still in place. Oh no, they're not in place. We gotta go and stop it, sort of thing. I had that sense of urgency. However, again, breaking it up the way that they did, it didn't seem like it flowed as well as it probably could have. I gave the story a 7 out of 10.
I give it a 5. I felt like...
Yeah.
You know what? I liked half of the story. I didn't like having to fight to remember it all. And yeah, I feel like... I respect your score. I'm content with mine. So,
sure, yeah. There's so many other storylines that are mixed into all of this that obviously we can't talk to because we didn't experience it. I did play a little bit of Rhapsodies of Vana'Diel storyline, and I really, really enjoyed that. I feel like if we did decide to come back, that's probably where we would start. We would start with Rhapsodies of Vana'Diel. It involves having to do some other quest stuff, so we may see that if we did come back to it. But I really feel like that storyline represents a bigger, broader concept of Vana'Diel as a whole. And I feel like we would enjoy that a lot more because the little bit that I played, I was invested. Like Gilgamesh, it involves Gilgamesh and Leon a lot. And all of the characters that it involves are very unique characters. Like Gilgamesh is very iconic and recognizable. Leon, obviously very recognizable. So like you see these characters and you can instantly recognize them. You know what storyline you're talking about. You know who they are. Where like the Taro little guys, like, I didn't recognize them on sight. So I didn't realize that they were the same character each time. I just, it's another Taro with, a weird funky name. Like, I don't know. Now, individual players that are Taro, they can even customize themselves to be recognizable. So, like, come on.
All of the NCPs were very unified in a way that was very hard to tell them apart. I agree. Yep.
Did you say NCPs?
Probably. NPCs.
NPCs, yeah.
NCPs. What? Words are hard, okay?
I know. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to talk about story-wise. Again, we just barely scratched the surface of the story. There's so many other storylines. There's so many more. There's so many more expansions that we can talk about in future podcast episodes. But
this score is just for the first basic storyline.
This score is
It's subject to change if we had played the entirety.
Yeah, and I think that if we finish the game 100%, it would have to be its own score. But yeah, this score that we're giving it right now represents our time in Vana'Diel between January 2022 and the end of February 2022. Like that is what the score represents.
I think what it really should represent too is a newbie's perspective of a first-time player for the first 30 or 60 days of what you might be getting into and how our experience was for the first part of this game. And
absolutely.
I think that's an important insight from someone who has not played this game, and it's now 2022 plus if you're listening later on. So, yes.
Yeah, and again, if we were to revisit Final Fantasy XI for different storylines, we would score it differently depending on our experience for that time. The difficult part is, I don't feel like our score for like gameplay would change all that much or graphics would change all that much because it's all kind of the same stuff. It's just the story is different. So like, does that need a new podcast episode, or does that maybe just need a you know, I don't know how to speak to that, but you know, we'll take it one step at a time. If you guys are interested in more of this, let us know. But in any case,
speaking of for its time graphics, its time, I was playing this game. We were not even like an hour in. My husband walks around the corner and he goes, "Ew." Windurst, I'm sorry, but Windurst was the most bland of every place we went to.
Agreed.
The most bland. And I'm talking including like just the dungeons. I would have rather have been in a dungeon.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Windurst
it
is
was ugly. Just bare, like a skeleton of a city.
It was super open. It was
redundant. Like the walls it just looked like you were in the middle of a dungeon almost that wasn't even completed.
I have to say though, the blandness of Windurst made
everything else amazing.
Yeah, it really did. So like, had we started in, you know, Bastok, we would have went to Windurst and been like, ugh, I'm glad we didn't start here. Like, this is like, boring.
Maharua or whatever, the place with the boat, that place, even in comparison, and that place was not much to talk about either.
Yeah.
But it was a little more interesting, I have to admit.
Yeah, for sure.
But that said, the other places, like you said, were pretty good. What was the place, the Elven Castle-y place?
That was Sandaria.
Sandaria? I really liked that place.
Yeah, me too. That was probably the best. Honestly, that city was amazing, and the outskirts of it was amazing with the like woodsy area, and the music was really good, and yeah, it was really good. All that aside, like, I know that the graphics aren't amazing. It is 2002 graphics, or 2002, 2003. And we're talking early PS1, but still, like, Final Fantasy X looked a lot better than this. However, Final Fantasy X is significantly smaller than this game. This game is absolutely massive. And I feel like that is a good spot for graphics, just because the size of this game, if they were to enhance the graphics anymore, at least, you know, for its time, it would just, the file space would have been astronomical. And even for like PS2 standards, the base game, had to fit on like a 20 gig hard drive, if not smaller. So like you have to realize, the size of the game along with the graphical restraints of the time. I understand the decisions that were made and, graphically. And it's not the prettiest, but it has some like good, some good qualities to it. We already talked about the cities that looked really, really good, but also like the jobs all had different armor, and every piece of armor and every weapon had its own representation the world. And even like the magic spells all had different visuals, and all the like status effects had different visuals. So like genuinely there was a lot of work into the graphics that I was able to recognize. Though that said, it still was like underwhelming going into the game, and it's like, it's not as pretty as it could be.
My first interaction with the graphics that I noticed that I wasn't happy with was actually the races. I was not really a fan of any of them.
I wasn't either.
I almost went with the Hume, the female one, and I knew you had already chosen that, and I wanted to do something different, so I went with the Elven instead. And I think if I could go back, I almost chose the cat race, except when you first are playing the cat race, they're rolling around on the ground all sexy like, and I was like, I'm too uncomfortable with that choice. But when we watch Trillian running around, I really like Trillian's like outfit.
Yeah, me too.
Actually, a lot of the cat people, once they were in like an actual attire for their jobs, they looked really good. And I do kind of wish I had chosen that one too. So
yeah, I think if I wasn't playing for Twitch, if I was just playing as an unknown me, I think I probably would have picked the cat female race also.
I think you should have done it.
Just like the biggest thing that was a turnoff to me was when I was flipping through the races. You get to like the Humes have this like strong like music, and it's like the strong we're humans and and then you get down to the Elven that's a little more mythical and oh wow, and then you get down to like the beast or the Grox
the
or
Galka
and they have this powerful music, and then you get down to the Taro and they're like and then you get to like the cat people and they're just like no, it's like sexy, like fun, and it's like
almost.
This
like I can't stream this.
I can't. I don't represent that vibe. But yeah, like their race as like aesthetically was way better looking than the rest of them. I mean, the Humes were okay, but you could still go and edit features. So like you like for me, I had like a guy with a beard and like but still, just I didn't fully embrace.
Yeah, I feel
how I was represented in the world of Final Fantasy XI.
I agree. I kind of feel like that. I think rather I felt like maybe there would be better options for armors and stuff, and there was, but like I never really have ever played as like what my character was, but I didn't want to. I don't know how to explain this. It's like I don't think I played true to myself as whatever I was playing either.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just weird. Yeah. But I kind of wish I had chosen Hume along with you because it was you and me playing as a brother and sister.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. We're about the same height, but you're my older brother, so it would have made more sense for you to have been taller instead of the other way around. I got all these goofy pictures of us in our crab hats, and there I am, towering over you.
Yeah.
There you are with your beard, like, hey.
I kind of feel like as the longer we spent in Final Fantasy XI, the more I got accustomed to my role, in my avatar, and I felt a little more in tune with him, but like, I don't feel like he represented me quite as well as I wish he would have.
This is where I'm really excited for when we do 14, because there's way more customization, and that's, I mean, I knew going in that this was an older game, so I kind of went in with higher expectations than what I should have, but I'm okay with what I chose, but really, when I was choosing my avatar, I had a really hard time picking what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did or not, but I certainly did.
I think I went with
Oh, that looks okay.
Yeah, I went with this is acceptable.
Yeah.
And not like I didn't like what I should have done. And if you're starting Final Fantasy XI for the first time, what I would suggest you do is really read over all the races and read over their like background and their history and like try and find something that you can like connect with.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like if you can find something that you can connect with on a deeper level, you might be more invested into the game as a whole. Where like I didn't do that. I was just going into it because this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So like I just picked one that was like, good enough, and then moved on. So, yeah, like that. I agree. Like it didn't represent me quite as well as maybe had I wanted to invest my time into this, it would have been a little bit better. But again, it wasn't awful.
Right.
Graphically, it wasn't an awful looking game. It played okay. Like there wasn't a whole lot of graphical glitches or anything crazy, but like it's not probably the best that era had to offer. It was like subpar to what the era had to offer. The only like big thing about it is the sheer size of Vana'Diel. Like you're walking through every area and it takes 20 minutes or so to walk from one end of any given area to the other. Like to walk the whole length of like the Windurst Woods takes like 10 minutes. So like,
Oh, I know. And heaven forbid you would die or not have access to a warp ring after your brother warps on out of the area.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Several times. Do you remember though, walking up, I think it was to Sandoria, the sunrise.
Yes.
That one spot.
I have that picture that you saved, and I'm gonna post it on Instagram when this podcast episode airs. So look on Instagram for that picture. But
I took a lot of screen caps.
Oh, did you? You'll have to send them all to me, and I'll post the ones that we like. But yeah, like there were some areas of this game that we're just wandering around. It's like, wow, this is really pretty. So yeah, I mean that absolutely. There are spots that are really, really beautiful. Like even riding the boat. We were riding the boat and in the distance you can see like glimpses of like Windurst
really
and
cool.
like stuff like that along the way. And that's really, really neat. So yeah.
I rated the graphics 5 out of 10. And I felt like that really was it. What was good was okay. And it just kind of fell short in places. I feel like it's kind of both even on both sides, so a 5 is...
I gave it a 7. I felt
that
like...
sunrise was just too beautiful.
It wasn't... It's just...
Was it my mud flap?
It was, yeah. I had to stare at that mud flap the whole time. No, it really is just that I could see the work that was put into this game.
Sure.
And yeah, it's work that's been put in over 20 years. But, graphically, yeah, it's not groundbreaking. It's not edge-cutting, graphically. But there's a lot to this game. And I feel like I could see that.
Well, I can say, too, when they add stuff... kind of like some of the trusts that they've added over the years, the trusts look really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, and those trusts represent an NPC character that is like a main character of a storyline. And you get more trusts as you play storyline stuff. So,
Things get better, hopefully.
like Gilgamesh, I was able to meet Gilgamesh and he gave me his trust to be able to summon him in battle. So like essentially you're playing with Gilgamesh, which is really cool concept. And especially some of these that have really cool avatars that it's like, I want to play with this person. That's awesome.
Yep. I agree.
So that does make it fun. So yeah, a 7 out of 10 and 5 out of 10 for you. Not bad.
Gameplay.
We have a lot to talk about in gameplay.
We should start off first by saying the game is not made for newbies. Well, it has not been tailored well to accommodate newbies of this time. Nothing has been put into place. The tutorial, first of all, there is tutorial spots, but you have to figure out how to open the tutorial menu. Half of the battle for the first few days was remembering all of the keys and all of that stuff. My biggest gripe, honestly, was just how you're just supposed to know stuff.
Yeah.
That is,
Well,
what kind of a game? It's not fun.
let's go over. I wrote a little list of all the aspects of the gameplay. I'm sure that I'm gonna miss some things, especially like later, like upper level areas and upper level stuff that we didn't experience. But for like a new person starting the game, there's a few aspects of gameplay that you're gonna notice, and I'm gonna just kind of go over all of them and kind of describe them a little bit. First off, the jobs. Every job in this game has obviously a unique weapon.
Some of them share.
Yeah, some of them share weapons, but every class has sets of weapons that are assigned to those classes. So you have to be very careful on which weapons you buy, and everything has to be tailored very specifically to your job. Otherwise, you're not going to make much progress. The jobs themselves are your character in that moment, and if you level up, you're not leveling up, your job is leveling up. So as you play, for example,
building your resume.
Yeah, right. So as you play, for example, I was a black mage, and when I was leveling up, my black mage, quote, black mage, was leveling up. And if I ever change my class, I'm back to level 1 again. Yes, you can also have sub-jobs, which are secondary jobs that you attach to your character. You can use those skills as a level 1, whatever else you want to be, but you have to unlock that further on in the storyline or whatever. So, like, you have to figure out where you unlock those sub-jobs. If you want to change jobs, then you're stuck going back to level 1, and you got to start all over again. The biggest thing, though, is finding out how to level up. Because leveling up isn't quite as... It is as straightforward as going out and fighting monsters, but that simplicity gets complicated real quick when you put in all the factors that are in place. For one, when you level up in an area, there is a level cap for that area. Once you reach that area's level cap, you no longer gain experience. So the first, like, we started in Winders, the first area just outside of Winders has a level cap of 15. You get past level 15, you're no longer gaining experience, and in fact, on your way up to 15, your experience starts to dwindle along the way. So once you make it to 15, you're no longer gaining experience, so you have no reason to fight any enemies in that area. Granted, the enemies don't get, they don't aggro to you, they don't get aggressive towards you when you're in that area if you've met that level cap, but you may, there's no real reason to be in that area once you're level 15. So then, the next area, you move on, you level grind, you get to level 25 or whatever the case is, then you're level capped again and you gotta go somewhere else. And this is like this through the whole game. The best thing to do, though, is to work on your trust system, your trusts. Yeah. Basically, trusts are NPC party members that you obtain through storyline or quests. There are very specific quests that you can look up on different Wikipedias. You can look all this stuff up on the internet, but you're going to want to get those trusts in place as soon as possible. And this is where, when I was talking about getting to level 5 and moving on with your trusts right away, that's why. Your trusts, there's certain mission stuff that you can't do until you're level 5. And so, like, go out, get yourself to level 5 right away. Yeah, you might die a couple times. Just go back out and keep fighting until you're level 5. Once you're level 5, you can do all the trust stuff, which is all done within your hometown, your starting city. Yep. And you can do your trust stuff. You can get the trusts that are available to you right away. And then you can summon them in battle with you, essentially giving yourself, up to, I think, how many were you able to summon in? 3?
Yeah.
So at minimum, you can summon in 3 party members to aid you in your adventure, giving you this opportunity to progress the story,
So you don't
progress your
have
game
to
without
rely on
relying on other people. Right. Now, if you do decide to rely on other people, there are cool things that you can do, like the level sync, where a higher level party member can level sync to you and gain experience, and basically they're not that higher level party member isn't taking on every enemy with one hit. Everyone's brought down to the same level, and you're fighting the dungeon as a party instead of, oh well, Jessica can do all the battles because she's level 92.
Right.
So bringing it down to the lowest level party member is a good way to go. But like, we were playing on an interesting concept where the first area just outside of Winders has a level cap of 15, but like, we wanted to level up our level 30 job. So what we were doing is I was lowering my level to level 1. You can't do level sharing until you're level 10.
So yeah,
So I had to level up to level 10, but then Kaylie could join my party and level sync to my level 10 mage or whatever, and then we could level grind together, gaining experience from the area, even though technically Kaylie is only level, Kaylie is technically level 30, going on level 35, and I'm, still level 10. So, that experience gets shared when you do the level sync thing, and it opens some possibilities for level grinding that may not otherwise be available. Because had it not been for that, we would have found ourselves in these really high level dungeons, level grinding, fighting one enemy at a time, and it would have been it would have taken forever. So the level syncing really did help us with that. But you kind of need two people to be able to do that. So if you're on your own, you kind of have to manage with those trusts to be able to progress. Or find another person to help you, which isn't always easy. The cool thing about the trusts is that they take on your level when you summon them in. So as soon as you summon them in, they're whatever level you're at. But if you level up, you have to re-summon them in for them to level up with you. So keep that in mind while you're playing. Let's see. Your inventory goes really fast.
Yeah.
As a default, your inventory does not auto stack,
which should be an.
I agree. We played the majority of the game without it auto stacking your items.
Common sense says it should just automatically and even if it didn't at first, why not make that a default feature after the fact?
Agreed. I agree. So if you're a new player to the game, I strongly suggest you going through the settings and finding, I think it's called auto arrange or something like that. And basically, if you get 2 necklaces in the wild, they'll just automatically stack to each other instead of you having to manually stack them or going into your inventory and telling it to stack. That said, there's also, you're only given 30 inventory slots to begin with. You can upgrade that later, but as a base game, you only have 30. So after each dungeon, you can go to your house,
your residential
area, where you can offload all of your extra inventory items to the Mog that takes care of your house, and basically storing them there for if you ever need them. I never found myself referencing that stuff.
I think the only time I did was when we needed the crystals.
Yeah.
Or if we were putting our equipment in the wardrobe.
And that's another thing that's pretty cool is the Mog can store your equipment too. And the equipment slots are accessible outside of your residential area. Just your equipment slots. So when you're gaining equipment, it doesn't have to take up an inventory slot because you can give it to the Moogle and then attach it to yourself from there. Yeah. So, you can play with different aspects of how that works, but it's a really handy technique to be able to use right outside of the game. Yeah. To be able to have that extra inventory slot instead of it being taken up with a helmet, a shield, a sword,
rings,
boots and rings and
mud flaps.
Yeah, it's just it goes on and it fills up quick. So missions, there's a couple different spots where you're going to get your missions from. There are the missions that are specifically in the mission area. What are those called?
The Gate Lords. I'm just joking.
No,
I
there's
heard about the
records
of Eminence.
Records of Eminence. Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Records of Eminence.
Records of Eminence. Yes.
Oh, so you're talking about through your quests in the main. So you can
in the menu.
You can gain missions in like the main quest menu for like the different tutorials and like are they like overworld quests, access to all kind of thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
essentially. I mean, there are very specific like tasks, if you will, like more so tasks that are given to you just as a default player, and those specifically involve like the trusts and just little bits and little things that you can do to give yourself boosts of experience here and there, and like just basic tasks to help you guide you on your way in a certain direction. And I mean, they kind of help. They're all right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they give you the stepping stones for like the trusts.
Yeah.
That's where you start your trusts, is in Records of Eminence. And then you start the storyline from there after you get your trusts. But if I was to start this game over again, I would strongly say level up your main job to level like 80 right out of the gate. And there's really nothing stopping you from doing that other than
the level cap.
Well, yeah, there is. You got to do the quest to to be able to move that level cap up. But I mean, regardless, like if you're in this game for just the story,
oh yeah, absolutely,
level up as high up as you possibly can imagine. I mean, the game level cap is 99, but like go to like level 80 and then go back and do all of the story in one run. Like if that's what you're there for, just do the bulk of the grinding out of the gate.
It goes back to I wouldn't know to do that. I mean, even with you, like without a guide, how do you even do that?
The game is not designed for the way that we played it.
Even the guide,
that's the number one issue with this game for us.
Then that's what I'm saying, though. Like, if you're just in it for the story, like, even that, if you had just told me that as a newbie starting this game out, I would have been like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, even with a guide. Yeah. You didn't know what you were doing with the guide. We needed 2 other people to help us, and they were seasoned players who were saying, "Yeah, it's tough."
No, I didn't start the game out with a guide. I started the game out.
Oh, that you were using it.
No, not at all. I started the game out just flying by the seat of my pants.
They were telling us
to use the guide because the game is difficult
use a guide
without
like this.
And that's kind of the biggest flaw that I find with the gameplay as a whole, is that there is nothing, like, unless you're sitting and really, really paying attention to the dialogue.
Well, you're supposed to be talking to every single NCP. I'm sorry, NCP.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That is a major flaw, in my opinion.
Oh, I fully agree.
The worst part of this game, it's the thing that almost made us quit. And that's why I gave gameplay a 4 out of 10. I felt like even that was generous. I hated doing this game, and it got better once you understood things a little bit better. But even then, I don't know if I would have confidently have been able to have done this.
Right.
Like, navigating the map is difficult, especially if you don't have a physical map like you did.
Yeah, I did.
And, like, when I finally understood the grid, it helped.
Yeah, it did.
But still, like, even the compass was still like, oh, I got it after a while, but just to stick to it, like, I would have ran after my 30 days were up with this free trial.
Yeah. It's a tough game to get started in, and if you're a new character, if you're a new player to Final Fantasy XI, you have to understand that this game is designed to make you figure it out on your own with your party. Like, it genuinely wants you to figure it out on your own, and it's not going to hold your hand to do it. It's going to make you look stuff up. It's going to make you try and find a guide, because they don't handhold you on anything. They drop you off in the world, and the game gives you no reference of nothing. They have this little story segment at the very beginning, at least for Winders. You have that little segment with Anjo.
Anchovies.
No,
his name is Agito.
Agito. Gosh dang it, Danny. You have this little segment with Agito, and like they basically just tell you good luck, and then that's it. Like, if you don't know where to go, like us, we dropped into the game, we had no idea where to go, we didn't know who to talk to, we didn't know the controls, we didn't know anything, and just running around trying to figure it out on my own, I was making no progress. No progress.
I can kind of understand if what they're going for is you're an adventurer, you have to figure this out concept. But still, some of that stuff was just, they could have helped you out a little bit more, at least in regards to this is how the map works, or better map mechanics, or here's how to open your menu. I had no idea how to open my main menu. In fact, the whole game, first of all, I found out later that you should just completely omit the mouse entirely.
Yeah, right.
But like, selecting things was frustrating. I mean, I could go on. There was a myriad of things that was very frustrating.
For sure. And, you know,
it wasn't just that, but that was also going hand in hand.
You have to go into this game with lots of patience and accepting that you're not going to know anything. Like, for example, me and you, we have played so many games for the podcast. We have taken on lots of different games that we would have never taken on before. And it's kind of gotten to the point where we know what to expect from a new video game. We expect the game to be able to help you understand the mechanics, help you get started with the storyline, and give you options of sub-quests to help you fill time. And this game does none of those things. Literally drops you off and wishes you good luck, and that's it.
Kicks you out.
It is up to you to hunt down the story. It is up to you to figure it out. And if you don't, you're going to get lost and it's not going to be fun. But for me anyway, once I got started, once I figured it out with lots of help, we were able to make some progress. We were able to, get our trusts in order and in line. I was able to help you with that as well. And we managed, but if it wasn't for the help of the people in our Twitch chat, I don't know what we would have done.
Definitely would not have made it to the second month.
Yeah.
I would have canceled this puppy a long time ago.
Yeah. And this goes back to, this game is not in any way catered to the way that we play games. This game is designed to waste your time. It's designed to be a full-time gaming experience. And if you don't have hours upon hours upon hours to dedicate to this game, there is no point. There's no point.
And see, that's my big thing too, is it's designed to waste your time, and you're paying for it to waste your time. And I am not going to pay, so I have to level grind the whole last month of my game.
Well, yeah. I understand.
Well, that can be talked about in overall too. But my last thing that I wrote down, which wasn't much because I felt like I could just go on and on about this, was you had a little bit more action than I did as far as in the battle, but I felt like most of the time I was walking up to an enemy and I could just sit back and wait.
Yeah.
And things got better the more job tasks I got for Warrior, because I could start doing stuff, other stuff. But literally just walking up, sitting, and waiting.
And that's I haven't really talked about the battle system just yet, but that is the battle system. That's kind of it. You engage in battle with an enemy, And when you select attack, your character auto attacks. And then anything above and beyond that, you have to manually select.
My notes here says I almost feel like there's less action in this than there is in a turn-based game.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the auto attack feature. If you want to call it a feature. It from a warrior's perspective, yeah, it is like you engage in battle and you sit back and wait.
Again, that did get better as I leveled up, but even then, like, if you're fighting low-leveled enemies, why even bother just sit and wait at that point?
Yeah. Well, and from my perspective as a mage, like, yeah, I could go up and I had to choose attack, but that was just to get my trust to start doing something. After that, then I could choose all the magic that I wanted, and my MP,
subject to your MP.
Yeah, right. I just had to watch my MP, and once my MP ran out, I was kind of dead in the water. But like, I think honestly, the most fun was being a black mage and being able to just sit back and focus on casting magic constantly. Like, still boring, but way more interactive than what you were doing.
We had a system down when we were leveling up after we level synced to a level 10 and whatnot, where mostly you, the black mage, would aggro everything in the area with a spell, and then you would call in one of your trusts they're already called in, but one of them has a big move that hits surrounding enemies. So you would just have all these enemies in your circle. You would have your trust finally attack and just hit them in a circle.
Everything in one hit.
Well, for me, I would have targeted you with a /follow, which makes your characters automatically follow you no matter where you go. And if I could hit tab on an enemy, I could attack it, and it would automatically go out there, attack it, which would invoke the trust attacking. And after they're dead, it automatically goes back to following you. Huh. I almost didn't have to press a button that entire time.
To level grind? Like, seriously, you literally could just take a nap?
What I would do is I would hit my follow for you. The first enemy, I would tab it, and when you said, okay, attack, I just hit enter and waited.
Wow.
I didn't want to tell you that.
Oh, jeez.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But I mean, really, there was nothing. You even said there's really not much you can do otherwise, because this is just how it's going to have to be.
Right. Well, and that goes back to our level grinding concept. Like, when we first started the game, Shadow helped us get to, between Shadow and Trillion, they helped us get to level, like, 40, like, upper 40s, like, level 50-ish. And we were able to breeze through, like, the first half of the story. Well, then it got to a point where we couldn't do the dungeons on our own. We had to have help. And that's when, like, Shadow or Trillion would come in and basically guide us through the dungeons and finish, essentially finishing the dungeon for us, and we just watched the story. Which, the reality is, we would not have had enough time to do that on our own. So to be able to finish the story that we finished, that was necessary. But, it's like you have to be at a certain level to be able to even continue the story. So, like, this game in every way is a grind. Like, you are dropped into this world. You have no idea what to do, so you have to grind to figure out what the heck to do. Once you figure out what you need to do, then you need a level grind to get there. You need a level grind to get here. You need a level grind to go there. By the time you're done, you're just like grinded out.
You walk in there with all these muscles. You're just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Yeah, seriously, I am so tired of and don't get me wrong, not very many people enjoy just a constant grind, but level grinding is part of a game thing that you just have to do. And I don't mind doing. The first day we actually sat down and level grinded the entire 3 hours. We did. It was fine. We chatted. We had fun. The next day, awfully quiet.
Yeah. It got boring pretty quick.
There was a lot of singing.
I think it goes back to this game is not designed for us, because we had such a short amount of time to play this game, and we needed to accomplish so much stuff.
But again, though, even as a new player who is not rushing, that's still
it's a lot of grinding. Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that this game is designed to waste your time. If you have a lot of time to sit and play, play the game. You're going to have lots of stuff to do. You're going to have, if you have a lot of time to do it, you can just sit and just veg out. And this is a great game for the people who want something to just kind of clear their minds after work and just veg out for a couple hours. If all you do is level grind, then that's all you do. If you want to do a dungeon, you go and do a dungeon. Like, literally, it's perfect for that kind of concept.
I just have a hard time believing that someone would actually want to do that in this game.
Well, how is that any different than someone wanting to sit and farm all day?
I would rather farm and Harvest Moon.
See, but that's
you're getting more. You're doing a lot more in freaking farming.
Yeah, your brain is working a little bit more, and you're moving around a little bit more. But like the concept is still the same. Like, you're either grinding at your farm, or you're grinding at gaining levels. Like, it's the same like chill time concept.
I have to level up. I have to level up. And the only thing I get out of it is leveling it up enough so I can continue the story, where I don't necessarily have to just farm vegetables. I could raise livestock. I'd much rather raise livestock in this game.
I mean,
I understand.
Again, it goes back to the same idea, though. You don't have to just level up. You could raise chocobos. You could go farm, enemies for a specific item. Like, there is so much more than just level grinding, but that's like a base concept. Just like the analogy that we're using here of farming, like, it's just the base concept. Yeah, you can do a lot more stuff, but like you're still grinding at that farm. You're still grinding at gaining levels. Like, that's just kind of a default thing to do when you don't know what else to do. So like, again, as a veg out game, if you want to just waste time, it might be easier and cheaper to play Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, but if you want that, possible interaction of meeting someone online, this is an option too. I don't know. There's a lot. Kaylie really hates this game. So like, me talking her down a little bit is
I don't know.
I feel better.
I mean, this could be a Zap Chats thing too. I'm just saying, you had an awful lot to say about Final Fantasy X about the people who just want to level grind their sphere grids. Mm-hmm. So that's probably just how I feel about this. Like, who in the right mind just enjoys sitting there fighting the same enemy with a new name on top of it?
Fair.
And I didn't even knock that on graphics because, like you said, this is a big game. I kind of understood reusing a lot of the enemies, but let's be honest, they reused those onion guys a bunch of times.
Yeah, they did. The onion guys, the rabbit guys. I mean, really, even the orcs and the
Yagudos.
Yeah, I mean, they were basically the same enemies, just like reskinned to be, but they were doing the same stuff. Like, the turtles.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Lots of feelings.
Yeah, lots of feelings. I want to try and give this game,
I feel like,
as positive of a vibe as I possibly can, but like, the reality is neither of us really had a whole lot of fun.
The most fun we had was when we were talking to each other.
Yeah.
Making up our own story, because it was way more interesting.
That's true, yeah. That is true. I mean, kudos to the people who have spent 20 years playing this game. I mean, really, it's a big game to take on. It was a different game, though, 20 years ago, from what I've heard. I don't know firsthand, but, when
it was a newer concept. The MMOs were... Right. That was a bigger deal back then.
Well, and back then, this game was brand new. More people were playing it. You could meet friends way easier because no one knew what they were doing. So you all, as a community, were getting together to figure this game out. At this point, everyone's figured the game out except for the noobs, and the noobs are just like,
that's too hard. Let's go play 14.
Yeah, maybe. But also, the noobs are just like guided to the wiki page, and they're like, all right, go to the wiki page and you'll figure it out. Like, that's not how anyone really wants to play a game, is just by following a wiki. If I was going to follow a wiki and just sit and follow the wiki the whole time, I may as well watch
someone play it.
Yeah, I may as well watch someone on Twitch play it for me. Like, there's no real reason. So, if you have lots of time to dedicate to this game of just venturing off into the unknown, that might be your thing. It doesn't work for us because we have a lot to accomplish in a reasonable amount of time. And so for us to try and do this in 2 months,
Right.
it made it difficult, and it made it absolutely necessary to have people like Trillian and Shadow helping us and holding our hand half the time.
Yeah, that's...
Oh yeah, there's for as simple as the battle system is, there is a oddly large amount of customization for the battle system. Like you have your sub jobs that you can mix and match with all sorts of stuff. You have the 3 base job or the 6 base jobs, but then you have I think 16 other jobs that you have, something like that. It's quite a big number of jobs that you can unlock later, and you got to level up all of those jobs, and the mix and match concept is there. There's a lot going on.
I'm sure it's very possible. I don't know for a fact. I didn't look this up. I'm just guessing. I'm sure though that some of those were added after the fact. So maybe at the beginning there wasn't nearly as many sub jobs.
I feel like this game too, we were either far underleveled or way overleveled or far too underleveled to do anything. Either the dungeon that we were in was so underleveled that there was no reason to fight anything, or we were so underleveled that everything killed us in one hit. So there was so much middle ground.
There's so much running of, oh no, I've been spotted, run.
Yes. Yep.
Run, Kaylie, run.
Yep.
Run, Danny.
The mounts are kind of fun.
We had so much fun with the crab mounts. The crab mounts were the most ridiculous.
They were so dumb.
We had so much fun with them, though.
I know.
And then the holy grail.
The crab hats.
The crab hats. We were getting ready to log out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Danny, this person has a crab hat. And we logged off, and the next day I was trying to figure out how to get it, and it was it's a special login bonus time, and I'm like, man, we probably missed it or something. And then we went in the next day or two, and we found them.
Yep.
And the rest of the gameplay was us with those crab hats.
Us
stupid crab.
Us with the stupid crab hats on the stupid crabs. We looked
amazing.
ridiculous, but we were together on our crabs, conquering the world.
There's a whole bunch of important people doing a whole bunch of important stuff, battling it out, and there's those 2 idiots on a crab.
Just scurrying.
You hold on to their eyeballs to steer them. Except my character had their hand out they wanted to hold hands the whole time. So funny. And the music?
Yeah, I know. The music in that was great. It is fun to collect all the different mounts.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a lot of them.
I'm sure,
same with the trust too. There's a lot to collect there. Really the whole game is there's a lot to collect.
The mounts make it a lot better for travel, and it is more fun to figure out what mounts you have, and it is cool if you want to pose with your character and stuff.
Essentially the mounts are like chocobos. You don't engage in any battles while you're on mounts, just like a chocobo would. They also have chocobos that you can raise and you can ride, and you can get a license to rent one out too. But the mounts are just so ridiculous that it was hard not to. And also the chocobos, at least for us, because we only had a chocobo license, we didn't own a chocobo.
Yeah.
We had to go to a chocobo stable to collect one, where the mounts, we just literally walked off into the world and we're like, all right, mounts. And then off we went. So it made it super easy.
So funny.
And it was twice the speed of walking. Yeah. So it was way better.
These really quick little crabs.
I know. And then the music.
We have our crab hats. So it looks like a crab is riding us that's riding a crab.
Yeah.
It was just crabception. It was amazing. And I loved it. So
yeah, well,
that was a big one.
What'd you give it for gameplay?
I gave it a 4
Oh
out
yeah,
of 10,
I think we talked about this. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I scored it higher because I can see the potential, but I understand where you're coming from. I get
Again,
it.
I'm just rating this on a newbie's perspective of the base game. And maybe it would change if we played the entirety of it, but this is from a newbie standpoint, and I hated it.
If you guys watch our first 2 or 3 streams, you can see the frustration, and I think we vocalized it several times that this game is not an easy game to just pick up and play.
Oh man, I kind of feel embarrassed for the amount of times I was yawning. But to be fair, we were playing late at night, but legit, like, when you're sitting there doing nothing otherwise, it's just like...
Well, and I did most of the navigation, so, like, with you just doing, like, a /follow on me, it was up to me to, like, figure out where we were going, because I was the only one with a physical map that my game included, and, like... It was just like, okay, we go to one area and it's, I don't know where to go. I know we have to go northwest. Maybe we go over here. So then I'd walk over there. No, that's not right. We got to go over here. We walk over there. So there was a lot of just running around and less doing anything else. Yeah. So like, yeah, no, I totally get it. Like, you were probably bored like 90% of the time. And the other time we were either dead or about to die. So yeah. It can be a difficult game. And to be fair, even the veterans who were in the stream said that it's a hard game. Like, it just is. Like, yes, we're new to MMOs, and yes, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't understand from the get-go that most MMOs use, but that aside, everyone in chat was very open to the fact that this game is not an easy game to just pick up and play, and that we were going to run into problems, and that's why they were helping us so willingly.
We had a few different people come in too that were just, they would ask questions, and there was that basic understanding of, yeah, it's really hard for newbies.
Yeah, right.
There was an understanding, not a, haha, you guys suck. It was like, yeah, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, exactly. And so from that perspective, the fact that we did I was going to say the fact that we did any of this is impressive. That said, I mean, Shadow and Trillion really held our hands through a lot of this.
Well, and near the end, we kind of started getting the hang of it. It was nice when they came in to help, but we would have like a good few streams where it was just us until we got help.
Yeah.
But man, it made things go quicker when they did help, which was nice.
Well, it's because they could just slay everything ahead of time, and then we were just like walking through it.
They knew ahead of time where to, like, what was the best area, what was the best route to get to stuff.
Right.
That was nice. That was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, when there was like one stream where we were running through, and it was taking a while because we weren't quite leveled up enough. And after like 2.5 hours in, Trillion actually came to help and slayed everything. I was so grateful.
I know.
Because we were going to be there forever otherwise. We were going to take a long freaking time.
Because half the time we had to fight stuff one at a time. Yeah. Granted, we were dumb and we didn't bother getting this vanishing spell until like a couple days ago. So like literally we probably could have gotten through a lot of this a lot quicker had we done the vanishing spell. But I had this feeling of, why am I even here if I'm just gonna run away from everything? Like, that makes no sense. And from a classic video game perspective, you're absolutely right. That makes no sense. But from a Final Fantasy XI perspective, no, you sneak past whatever you can and you fight what you have to. So like, that concept makes no sense to me.
I did try to explain. There was one dungeon that was very, very difficult because the enemies were insanely high level. And I said, I bet that back in 2002, that this was it's not a new thing, but a new mechanic of, you're supposed to sneak by these people. Yeah. You're supposed to figure out that this is what you're supposed to do. This is how it's intended to be. You're supposed to sneak by these people and figure that out.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's what that was about, at least in that area.
Yeah, I mean,
it's intended.
They have the abilities of sneak and vanish for a reason. And I'm sure I'm sure you're right. I'm sure that's built into it. I feel like that those areas should have been a little more catered to that if that was the case. But again, that's this whole game. This whole game doesn't cater you in any way. So like, if you're looking for answers, you're not going to find them in the game. You're going to find them in the guide. In the Wikipedia, rather,
which is fan made, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean,
well, it's community made.
Yeah.
Honestly, the community has put forth all the time and effort into perfecting the Wikipedia so that idiots like us can come in and try and play the game. And really, a lot of the missions that we played were nearly impossible without looking at the guide. Like, we literally, most of the missions that we did, we were walking through step by step, following the guide. I think I had one stream that I played on a Saturday before you officially started, I think. I mean, officially. Before you...
There weren't many Saturdays I played.
Yeah, I know.
There was like one.
One, I think.
Maybe.
There was one Saturday that I sat down and did a whole bunch of side quests that were just in town.
Yeah.
That, like, as you're walking through town, you can talk to people and you can talk to NPCs and get side quests. I had done that, and I had a whole bunch of side quests stacked up, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to knock these out. So I went through and I knocked out all of my side quest missions, and I did all but one using the Wikipedia. So I officially, let it be known, that I officially did one side quest without using the guide.
Using your big brain.
Yes, let it be known that I was able to do one without the guide. So, I don't know.
Well, let's talk about probably the only and best feature of this game.
The crab mounts? Again?
You're right. I stand corrected.
The second to best.
I scuttled corrected. The second best. The music.
Yeah. I give the music a 9 out of 10.
I gave it a 7.
Okay.
Mainly because I wasn't in love with all of the music.
No,
I got awfully
either.
tired of Windurst music.
Yeah.
Mostly because every time I died, I heard... There was a few locations that had amazing music. Like, amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
My personal favorite, which is kind of funny, is the crab music. Not specifically the mount music.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Tactics Advance, and I loved that game. I know you didn't, but it reminded me of the battle music because of the way it is. And
the way it bounces.
Yeah. But I'm sure you're thinking about this too. The wall tower.
The wall tower is really good.
I kept saying it gave me Valkyrie Profile vibes, and there were some of those, but
somebody
else
said Chrono Trigger,
and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what that is.
There is the woods outside of
the Sandario,
yeah, and
Sandaoria,
and that music is fantastic.
And we actually took off our mounts in those.
Yeah, we did, and we just walked it because the music was so good that it was better than the mount music.
I like that we're in tune enough where that was just like, we're gonna have to walk.
Yeah, we need to walk this one. Yeah. And then the theme song, the Vana'Diel theme song, is it's so good.
But the places that had no music were filled with my music because I could not take this boring game musicless.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I would rather be in battle. In fact, there were times where we engaged in battle just to have music.
You're absolutely right. And if this game didn't have that, I probably would have given it a 10 out of 10 just because the music was really good when there was music. Honestly, it probably doesn't deserve a 9, though I'm going to keep it just because it needs some spot that's really good. But yeah, like that was probably the worst of it, was that there were quite a few dungeons and areas that just had no music, which is fine sometimes, but not so many times. It got to the point where no music in dungeons became a norm, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I really, just having a little something in the background is okay, but if that something is really good, that makes it so nice. Yeah.
What was your least favorite place? Because I already know mine.
Like dungeon?
Or anywhere, I suppose, is fine too.
Probably it was one of the castles that had
all the like warpy things.
Yes.
Yeah, that place sucked.
No. That was the last dungeon, right?
I believe so.
That was the one that Shadow escorted us through. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I think it's the Yagito castle.
Oh, the Yaguto one where the sandy area where we kept dying.
Yeah. And there was like a ton of different like floors and you had to like be on the right floor to get to the right spot. Oh, that was a mess. I hated that area.
I hated the marsh. We went there more often than I cared to.
Yeah, there was quite a few times that we had to be there.
And Windurst was probably my least favorite town.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the marsh.
There was a town that you couldn't go to,
Nora. Nora?
Yeah, no, you're right. Norg. It was pretty cool. Like, it was basically a pirate cove, and it's like pirates docked and set up camp,
Yeah,
and like,
it's cool.
it was neat. The music was pretty good there too. Yeah, I mean, that's about it for music. I mean, sound effects were okay. I mean,
some of my attack moves were like, they sounded really cool, like a seraph attack or like a circle, something or other. It sounded really cool, and they were just kind of like, eh.
yeah.
I think there was too much going on between the trusts and us. It was just like lost in translation.
The sound of casting a spell was really cool. Like, it had this like like this energy,
as it should.
Yeah, and that was really satisfying. The bards had music that would play.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
And it was really
interesting.
funny how like you would end a battle, but the bards were still playing. So like in the dungeons that have no music, the bards are just back there, just like it's like, what are you doing, man?
Although I was very sad that sometimes you noticed this first. You would level up, but if you kept walking, your level up sound is still down here behind you, like leveling up.
Yeah, like
that spot just leveled up.
Yeah, like I would level up, but like the level up spot is where the sound was. So if you walked away, like the sound got further away. It was really bizarre. That was strange.
I assume it has something to do with other surrounding players hearing you level up.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, that was whatever, but it still was funny. Worth noting, I suppose.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, overall, Kaylie,
5 out of 10.
I give it a 7 out of 10.
I feel like if you're playing this, you're probably playing this either A, thinking like us, oh, well, we're just going to get Final Fantasy XI under our belts and call it a day.
Yeah.
Or B, you're a purist. I think that if you're just playing this to get a taste of it, only utilize your 30 days and call it a day. Because I don't think I would pay for my subscription for a second month.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been playing it for this.
Right.
I kind of viewed it as mediocre. I never understood how the beginning intro tied into this.
I guess that has to do more with Rhapsodies of Vana'Diel.
I see.
It digs a little more into it. I think
Which I didn't get with the base game.
I know. Yeah, I know. And I didn't really understand that either, though. Talking to Shadow about it, seemed to say that there's a lot of story that ties into Rhapsodies, that the other surrounding stories tie back into Rhapsodies. So like Rhapsodies really is not so much the story of Final Fantasy XI, but more of the story of Vana'Diel.
Okay.
So like, they all kind of tie together to that one. So that one's a good one to play to get a good understanding of the story of Vana'Diel as a whole.
See, then this is why I liked explaining earlier that this really is just a newbie's perspective of this game, because a seasoned player would know exactly what we've played, and that there's probably so much more to this than what we've experienced.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that the people listening to this podcast are Final Fantasy fans who either are curious about Final Fantasy XI or Final Fantasy XI fans who have been playing Final Fantasy XI for a while.
I'm sorry.
Just, I can't explain enough that this is just scratching the surface of this game. I'm more than aware that we have no idea what we're doing. We have very little understanding of the game and the story. However, I feel like having put 2 months into this game, having put over 50 hours worth of time into the game, I feel like our judgment and our scores are fair. And, at least for now, I feel like I'm content with the experience I had with Final Fantasy XI. And, if we come back for more, it's because you guys want to see it and not so much because I want to come back. And again, like to Shadow and Trillian, if you guys are listening, thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
But I mean, I'm sorry that I know this game is like, so big and so important to you guys.
And here we are talking so badly about it.
Not so much that. I think that they understand where we're coming from. I think for me, it's more of I'm sorry that I just left
Oh yeah.
More
I
than
did feel
anything
kinda
else,
bad
and I
about
just kind of
I know.
left.
We logged out, and I was like, it was kind of too bad that Trillian and Shadow weren't in chat. Of all the days to not be in chat, like
And
I don't
those
think
two,
they checked in at all, which I don't blame them.
Those two were in there like,
almost every time
from the very first stream. I mean, yeah, I just can't say enough good things. Honestly, I think that they're a good representation of the Final Fantasy XI community as a whole. It sounds like that more and more people who play and are veteran players of the game love the game enough that they want to help the newbies out, and they want to help the newbies have a good experience of the game.
I definitely can say that they did that. Like, they made it a little more fun.
Yeah.
Shadow made it really helpful, leveling up what we needed to do next, what was helpful. I really appreciated all the new fun things I learned from Trillian.
Yeah.
All the little emotes and just kind of having
cool.
fun. We had fun with each of them. It was nice. I appreciated the help.
And the way that they explained, I asked everybody who were veteran players of the game, I asked them what made them keep coming back after all these years. And the majority of them said that it was the community. That the community was so awesome that that's what made them come back every year or all the time, after all these years. Yeah. So, that really says a lot that this community just loves this game. Yeah. And if you can find a place amongst this community, I think that...
Find yourself a veteran player.
Well, yeah, but I think that if you want a good, strong community and you love this, and you can find love for this game, I think that you can find a place amongst them and, enjoy being with finding some friends along the way. That said, I don't know if I would have really run into anybody had we not been streaming. I think obviously the only reason we found Shadow and Trillian was because we were streaming and they jumped in.
I think there was an option to put that if you needed help or were looking for party members, and I think if we had utilized it, we would have.
Yeah.
But because we were playing together and we had those people if we needed help, we were taken care of. But those options are there for people. Absolutely. And there's a help option for /help if you're in the middle of danger.
Yeah, and to be fair, the game that I bought, the Final Fantasy XI Complete Edition, it came with like a quick start guide disc that like explained a bunch of stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have done that.
I know.
This whole time we're complaining about the game not helping us and you're hoarding a disc?
Well, I wanted the game to explain it for me and it didn't.
Because we didn't play disc 1.
Yeah, I know, I guess. No, but it also does have like a keyboard guide within the map and just like useful commands, like all the / commands. Just a handful of useful stuff.
I got a new keyboard like the last playthrough, and like I kept making all these typos trying to like play along with everyone. Yeah. Because I'm just trying to get used to the keys. So my score put me at a 25 out of 50.
No, I think it was a 26.
26 out of 50. I just didn't scribble it enough.
I got a 37 out of 50, so that put us at a 6.3 out of 10 for the score of this game. Which is okay.
Yeah, which is how I felt about this game.
It was...
At least at the end.
Yeah, it was okay. It did... I feel like it did grow on me a little bit as I played, but it definitely is more of a veg out game. Like, if...
I would rather veg out at the TV than this.
I think that the money that you spend into it, in my opinion...
Well, to be fair,
isn't enough for me to want to just...
$12.
It's not much.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's not much.
But you still had to buy the game.
Yeah, I still had to buy the game. The game's not that expensive on eBay
anymore.
You can get I think the full complete game on Steam is like $40, but you can get the complete
like all of the quests that have been
all of the it's like the complete edition with all of the expansions and everything.
That's what I meant,
yeah, you can get that for $40.
Oh,
but
that's not bad.
The edition that I got, which I believe is all but like maybe 1 or 2, is it's on eBay for like $15. So like it's not that bad if you want like the complete quote
Yeah.
complete edition. It's 10 years old, but like as long as you find a sealed copy of it, you know, it's not so bad. I'm gonna tell you now, Kaylie, I bought you a copy of it. I did.
Why?
It was gonna be in the mail today, and it didn't show up today.
Oh.
So I was gonna surprise you with the complete edition for you,
Thank you.
but it didn't show up today. So I'm
I am
sorry,
surprised.
but I did buy you a sealed copy of the
He's
complete
like,
edition.
you will be back.
It's more of the gag of doing it.
Sure.
But also,
That's funny.
you know, if we do decide to go back, I want you to have a complete edition.
I
And
appreciate it.
I don't want that to be a hurdle. I'm not going to let that be a hurdle of why we don't
That's
play
funny.
this. So, guys, if you want to see more of us playing this, if we get enough feedback, we will be back. I will do my best to force Kaylie back into this game.
You have to text me every day.
It may not be right away. It may be, you know, next year or something that we tackle later. But, you know, if we get enough feedback and you guys want to see us do more in this game, I'd be interested to hear about that.
If we get
No, don't say it.
20 comments.
20?
20.
Is that what you're going to put it at?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm alright with that.
I
If-
can't imagine we would get 20, but
If
like
we-
maybe
between
now and next year.
no, between our YouTube channel and our email and our social media, if we get 20 total 20 comments about wanting us to continue Final Fantasy 11
I will do
from
it.
different people. It has to be different people. I don't want Shadow just going in there and being like, hey. Not that they would. I'm just saying.
I mean, they might.
They might, I know. Then maybe we'll come back and we'll play some more. We'll do
I
like
will commit
Rhapsodies
to
or
that.
something else. So yeah, that would be fun.
There is a time limit on that, though, sir.
All right, well, we'll see. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you all so much for hanging out and listening to this podcast for Final Fantasy 11. Next up, we're not entirely sure what's going to be played next. There are two possibilities. We're either going to be reviewing Horizon Forbidden West if Danny can complete it in time, which I might be able to. It sounds like it's going to be like maybe a 40-hour game to a 50-hour game. I think I can commit to that within the month. Or we will be doing a what is it called? Webbed?
Yeah, web.
Or we'll be playing Webbed on the Nintendo Switch. So one of those two will be for next podcast episode. Obviously, we have Zap Chats every 15th, so check that out. And yeah, guys, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.